Oh my God, YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you are. We got Don Martin. Hi, Don.
Hi, Austin. Thank you for having me in your studio today. I'm so glad that we can make this. We flew to one another and we are in the same room right
Yeah,
now.
the room looks very different on both
Yep.
sides.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Very different lighting. The lighting
Yep.
is different. I was really impressed, though. You have great staff. I
Yeah.
appreciated the spa water I got upon entry.
Happy Pride to
Happy
you.
Pride. Thank
Uh,
you.
yeah, and happy anniversary
Oh
to
yeah,
you.
it's my wedding anniversary today,
Oh
and I'm
my
spending it
God.
here with you as I dreamt.
That's great. That's great.
Thank you.
Your husband was like, "What are we doing for our anniversary?" And you're like, "I'm going on Austin Archer's podcast."
I'm going on a podcast. Yeah, he's like, of course you are. Of course you are. That's your whole thing. Good,
He was
good.
like,
I'm gonna go away.
"This is going really well." I love
Yeah,
you very
yeah.
much. Bye.
Yep, yep, yeah, yeah. We've got double sync. Other people have double syncs. We just have like double hobbies. It's great. You should
Mhm.
try it sometime.
Do you have plans? Are you going to go to dinner or something? Are you going to do anything?
We've said the word boba to each other like a million times. I don't know. It's really gross. So I'm in Chicago and like we're getting our share of the Canadian wildfires
Yeah.
today. So like the world is very brown outside. So I'm not sure how much like going out we're actually going to end up doing tonight. But maybe.
Does it have you feeling pretty dystopian? Do you feel like you're looking outside going, "Uh-oh, I've got maybe 20 years left on this
No,
planet," or
but it is well, I mean, I kind of always feel like that. But but
Mhm.
I mean it's actually giving more like The Others, that Nicole Kidman movie. Like that's the energy that outside is giving right
Oh.
now. So I'm kind of waiting for like a Victorian child to show up and tell me that actually I've been dead the whole time.
Yeah. Someone's doing a seance in your living
Yeah.
room and trying to
I'm
get
actually
you out of the house.
I'm a ghost. Yeah.
Mhm. How often do people talk about the fact that your name is very close to Doc Martin?
I got that in high school a lot back when Doc Martens were a huge deal.
Mhm.
I also was a band kid, theater kid, so I got Dean Martin a lot.
Mm.
I will say it is kind of nice because I have a little bit of like Google cover. Like it's not as easy to Google me because the very famous Mad Magazine illustrator is also named Don Martin. So when you
But
Google my name, that is all you get is vintage Mad Magazine illustrations, which is
but do
great.
you want that as a writer and as a public person?
I think I'm good. I mean, I used to be like, I've been doing this a long time. Why can't people Google me? And now I'm like, that's okay. It's
Yeah.
fine. People are crazy. People are nuts.
Yeah.
Now I mean, like if you Google like Don Martin author or Don Martin, like Don Martin, a thing that I do, then of course I show up. But like
Mhm.
if you just Google my name,
Yeah.
you get a comic illustrator, and I kind of love that. It's great.
Have you done anything fun this month? Do you and your husband do much? I know some like couples who have been together for a very long time, like it's like Pride month is almost like a young person's game where you're like, I did it. I did the parades. I did like, do you go out? Do you go to Chicago Pride? Do you celebrate? Do
We did.
you?
We actually had. I ruined our plans. So we had plans to go do Pride on Sunday. But I also have a podcast. It's called Head on
Mm,
Fire. It's great. You should listen to it.
mm.
But I had just done an interview with David Archuleta, and I got that audio back, and part of it had corrupted,
Oh God.
and it was really bad. And he
Ugh.
was I told him, I was like, hey, I just wanted to let you know, like the interview you sound great. Your answers are great. This is going to be great. I do just want to apologize in advance because it does sound like we are talking to each other through a wet washcloth, like giving like the
Oh.
worst, like just the worst drunk voicemail at 2 a.m. on a Saturday you've ever heard. And he's like, we can just do it again. And I was like, oh, David Archadorable, I'm so thankful. So I did have to give up. I did have to give up my Sunday. I didn't get to go to Pride. So we did Pride at home. And I bought a bunch of rainbow stuff, and we sat at home and we binge watched Glamorous, and we cheersed each other with like rainbow wine and all of that. But we like to go to the parade. Back before the panini, I
Mhm.
had a corporate job downtown, and I was a very active part of Pride. I mean, June was every day I was staying late. Every day I was out till 10 p.m. at night doing this event or that event or drag brunch or this or that or the other. So I really do. I love it. I mean, I like to be a part of it.
When I was in my
But yeah.
20s, I partied hard in
Oh,
Pride
see,
Month.
I can't do the
Like I,
parties.
I like
I can't do
Pride
the
was like
parties.
I partied hard. Like I was like, oh,
Mm-mm.
but I also like am a recovering alcoholic who like would take any
Uh,
excuse to be drunk all day long. I'd be like,
sure.
oh, I'm gonna go to the parade and I'm gonna be
Yeah.
drunk all
Yeah.
day.
I will say nothing makes you feel like like a solid 4.5 on a best day, like going to Pride. Like you go to Pride and you have to have your ego has to be, your self-image has to be in check, because you go to Chicago Pride and you go to any of those bars. And that is just that's where it gets to be a young person's game. A young person who is just they think that they are the hottest human being on the planet, so you just have to like walk in and just really be fine with your spirit,
Yeah, but
because
Don,
it's
you're so hot. Like every time I come across one of your videos, I'm like, oh, Don's so fucking hot. Like with your like gym shirts and shit. Is that? I mean, I guess that's a thing in the gay community is that like everyone's like really hot, and then like you're like, okay, I gotta really compete with the extra hotness. I'm out here with like straight guys who are like dating like women that are just like so much hotter than them all the time. And I'm like, well, if that guy's got a girlfriend, I can get a girlfriend. Like, like I can.
it's very sweet. But like I said, something about it's not. I mean, like I feel like I've got a pretty healthy sense of self-confidence. But something about going to Pride, you see, it's like people crawled off Mount Olympus to come down here, and you're just like, oh, I don't. There's not. There is a difference,
Yeah.
and the difference is vast,
Yeah.
between them and me, and I'm okay with it. You do have to get that ego just like solid and in check, or else you are gonna come home and you're just gonna cry.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that I've always dated out of my league as a straight man because
As a
that's
straight
just
man.
as a straight man because that's just like what like straight women are yoked with is just like you gotta sort of just like the hottest straight guys are like the worst guys. And so it's like you gotta like
I just think I don't know that that's a straight thing. I feel like that's just a men thing. That's just
just
men. That's just I don't know.
yeah.
You can have some real pretty ones, and they're just jerks. I
Yeah.
don't know. Ew, men are gross.
Yeah, that's
This
true.
episode is called "Men Are Terrible,"
Yeah.
with Don Martin. Welcome to Men Are Terrible. Hi, welcome to my new podcast, Men Are Terrible.
I'll
It's
be a
hosted by
guest on
two
that.
white men.
Two white men.
Two
Yeah.
white men.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
We are awful because.
Yeah. Oh my God. I didn't get to go to anything this year. I was working all June and I didn't get to go to like any events. I was down in Moab, Utah, which has, I've heard, like a pretty like small but fierce pride that they
Mhm.
do. And it happened on some Friday or Saturday, and was working and I didn't get to go, but you know.
Yeah, the last Pride I was at a couple years back, and this year apparently as well, um, rained out. I was supposed to be in it, like I said, I had a corporate job, so yay, corporate people at Pride.
Mhm.
But I was going to be in the parade, and it just, oh my God, it was just such a deluge. We didn't even get to walk the parade. We just stood there and just were drenched. And the problem is, since we never actually got to walk the parade, we were all the way up at the start of the parade, and all of our cars and all of our way out and everything was at the end of the parade. So we still had to get there. So we
Mhm.
had to walk like, an hour in the rain.
Oh my
It's
God.
great. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, I have one more like stupid question before we get into the
There's
real
no such thing as
harding.
stupid questions, only ugly faces. No kidding. I don't even know what that was. There's a
uh,
t-shirt. There's
Yeah,
no such thing as
that's new Don Martin merch dropping
thank
soon.
you.
There's no such thing as a stupid question. My friend and I used to say this to each other all the time. We would like if someone was like, that was a really stupid thing that I said. We would go, "You're not stupid. You're sexy." It's like it's has nothing to do with like the other. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
you're not
It's like,
stupid.
oh, at
You're
least you're
sexy.
pretty, and it's like,
Yeah.
thank you. I know what you're saying. Thank you so much. Thank you,
Uh,
thank you.
I watched a video today where you were talking about getting a shirt. You went to Target to get, and I do want to talk about rainbow
Oh
capitalism because
yeah,
that's what that's kind of what this video is about. And you were just talking about having a corporate job and like having to like go do like the corporate pride thing,
yeah.
and that will be something that I want to come back to. But this question's not about rainbow capitalism. This question's just about my interest in your shirt size, because you cut a lot of like gym shirts that you wear in
I
your videos
do.
and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But you're like a not only are you super hot, you're a buff man too. Like you've like got like a nice body and like, but you were talking about how like a large was too big on you, and I was like, wait, do you wear a smaller medium normally, or do you wear? Because I wear a
No,
large.
God, this can make me sound like such a tool. So my shoulder to waist ratio
You're very
means that
svelte.
my shoulder size is one size and my waist size is a different size. So if I'm buying like a tank top, you can
Mm-hmm.
buy a size down, and if you're buying something else, you buy a size up. But like if I'm just buying a shirt and I know I'm going to cut it up to wear at the gym, I'll usually go like a couple of sizes up. That way, whenever you wash and dry it, it doesn't like become like a mankini, and then
Okay.
suddenly the boys are out or something. Wait, that
But you
sounds
kind of like a little
like my something
no,
else hangs out.
but
But no,
you rock
it
a
just
little side boob. You like a little side
oh
boob.
yeah, well yeah.
Yeah,
I
like a
worked out really
little.
hard for that.
You
So yeah.
you gotta get that line.
It's just
People
but
can't
it's just right there. It's just the right, just the tiniest, just the littlest bit of that. You got
we're
to just
just
and
missing the nip. It's
yeah.
just
Yep, it's just
mhm,
right across there. But that's the thing is you have to get the correct original size shirt, and you have to know
mm,
where to cut it so that
mm,
when it washes and dries and shrinks up and curls in a little bit, it still just goes right over the edge. So
okay.
you're not in violation of Instagram's no nipple policy.
I just needed to know because I'm planning on
Uh-huh.
reshaping my body this year.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna get chiseled and jacked,
I so
and
I mean,
I needed to
listen,
know what shirts I should be looking for.
I what people think I look like, if you ever find my socials and like go back far enough, that is like what people think I look like is not what I looked like a few years ago. Like I used to have a horrible job where I was working 85 hours a week and I was eating nothing but junk and garbage, and I was about 45 pounds heavier than I am now, and like all the places that I did not want to be that size. And I did not look like this. So it was a long road to what when I finally left that job, I was like, you know what? Whatever my next job is, I'm going to prioritize. I'm going to take the time to make sure that I'm putting stuff in my body that honors my body. And I'm going to make
Mhm.
sure that I'm giving myself time to just go exercise, like just go do something for my brain and my body. And that has become a time when it's just like, I get all my best ideas. I'll
Yeah.
get a great idea for the next chapter I'm working on, or I'll, come up with a question list for my next interview or something like that. Like while I'm at the gym, it's just a place for me to kind of connect with myself. Some people meditate. I go lift weights.
Mhm. Well, okay, great. All right. I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you were able to like that you had a goal of eating healthier and feeling better in that way was something
Yeah.
you wanted for yourself and that you were able to achieve it. And I wanted to, shower that praise upon you and say that like, I notice it,
Well, thank you.
you know?
Thank you, Straightman. Thank you. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
It's high praise.
Uh, so I titled this that was my question about your shirt size. I titled this episode Wildly Unreasonable. You have a couple videos where you talk about being wildly unreasonable. I think that there's something I want to talk in the context of like Pride Month and just sort of the current cultural conversation, which feels like a clone of the same cultural conversation we've been having for the last 50 years. And it's so frustrating talking with conservative people who think that they're telling you something original, and you're like, you're not. Like I was almost gonna say, like, I hope you've had some time this month to shove some things down some people's throats. Cause like every time I hear that thing where people are like, I have no problem with gay people. I have no problem with trans people. I just wish that it wasn't shoving it down my throat. I'm like, y'all have been saying that shit my entire life. Like that exact line, word for word, off of a script. And it's never been true that it's completely flipped, really. It's like, it's not that, prejudice and bigotry toward the queer community is born out of how visible and how flamboyant the queer community is in public. It's that queer pride is a reaction to that bigotry. It's flipped. It's like, no, queer pride and being public and being loud and proud about who you are is a reaction to how historically marginalized that community has been, and how much heteronormative culture has tried to push queer culture into the margins of society. So it's such a stupid argument. And it's also just on its face saying, like, I have no problem with X community, I just wish they weren't so visible, is like, yeah, I don't know how you don't hear that it's like, if I were to be like, I'm totally fine with Black people, I just don't like when I see them in TV shows. It's like, that means you're not fine with them. That means that you don't like them.
Like, hey, Buster, you're doing a racism. I hate to tell you, bud, but you accidentally did a racism. You made your inside thoughts your outside thoughts. Whoopsie.
which actually is like a thing like a lot of these people do too, is like, if there's just a Black person in a movie where they don't think they should be, they're like, I don't like it. And it's I'm not racist, but I get really mad if a person of color shows up somewhere I don't think they should be.
There's so many people that I think the most comfortable that there's like a certain contingent of people where the most comfortable they are with the idea of queerness was the version of queerness that was presented in like romantic comedies around 2003, like just a sexless gay best friend who is there for all of 4 minutes of that movie to just throw a little dusting of fashion on you, and to give you just a little sassy little something, and then that's it. Like there's just a pretty certain strong contingent of the population that I think would call themselves allies, and would think that they have all of the right beliefs. Oh, I have gay friends. I'm great with gay people. I love the gays. And that's the version of queerness that is palatable to them. Is this just like sexless? We're all Ken dolls. We're just plastic Ken dolls from the neck down. We don't have sex. We don't eat. We don't sleep. We just go to the gym and wait to be summoned to come tell you to work.
I think that that's true of people like from the millennial or Gen X generation, where they're like, I'm even okay with like a little like affectation or flamboyancy. I just don't want to hear about this. I just don't want to even be reminded that the sex part exists. But then it's strange, because I'm like, how did we get away with a show like Will and Grace in the 90s, where like even though it's not in there,
because
like
Will was straight.
Right.
Because the casting of that movie, because the casting of that show had a real gay man.
Yeah.
And they said, "Oh, you're too gay. We need to hire the straight man."
Yeah, to be our main
to be Will.
Yeah. But
and
Jack
they just made him like a Reagan era conservative white man.
True. Like, Will's not the part. The thing that I mean, because like the reason for the show is Jack and Karen, and like that's
which
the show.
That should have been the show a long time ago. I mean, like Will and Grace was always fun. Every time we do a rewatch, which my husband loves that show a lot more than I do. But if you're listening, anyone connected with that show, I love your show. I'd love to interview you. Thank you so much. You're great. But And that's true. I do like all of the people that did that show. I just don't, something about that show lost its edge after I think season 4, something like that. Like the minute, every time we do a rewatch and I see Leo show up, I'm just like, nope, can't, I'm done.
Mm,
It's like when I rewatch The Office, as soon as Michael leaves,
right.
I'm done.
Well, I'm actually really glad that a lot of American, this is sort of a tangent, but I'm glad that a lot of American television, because of streaming, is getting shorter. I think that like it's better storytelling to be like 3 or 4 seasons is perfect. Like 3 or 4 seasons, 5 max, but like
Yeah.
that's like the most that you need to like
Schitt's Creek really
really,
found that correct formula
yeah,
of get it, Schitt's Creek, The Good Place, a few other shows really
don't overstay your welcome.
took that British formula of
Mhm.
what is the story we want to tell. It's like if you ever watch Supernatural, the TV show Supernatural from the early 2000s, they had a plot for the first 5 seasons. They had a clear arc for the first 5 seasons. That's how the show was sold for the first 5 seasons, and then it got really popular on the CW, and they were like, well, we like making money. And
Yeah.
then it went for 10 more seasons or
And that's
something.
what
I don't know, like
that's
20. I don't like way too many. And
yeah.
there was no reason for it afterwards. Just
Yeah,
like let things be things.
for a long time in American television, I feel like that was the MO. And part of me is like, as an actor, as a person in the industry, I'm like, yeah, it's jobs for everyone. Like,
Yeah.
it's not just the actors, it's all the crew, it's all the writers, it's the directors, it's a job. And I'm like, I get that if you can have a job on a show for 10, 15 years, that's a really dream cushy job. But just as a storyteller, I'm like, your story lost its best moments and its gas 10 years ago, and
Yeah.
like, and you're now just,
Yeah, it's I mean, like if you're gonna have longer seasons, like I mean, I think a lot of people have seen Abbott Elementary, which is almost the exception that proves the rule, almost, I think, when it comes to that, where they are doing those like 20, 22 episode seasons, like that full network treatment. And a lot of people are like, see, this is why we need to go back to that. And I'm like, yeah, but have you seen all the other shows on TV?
Yeah.
Because like Abbott is great, but I also don't feel like the creators of Abbott are going to be like, yeah, let's do this for 27 seasons. I just don't.
Yeah.
I feel like somewhere in what's her Quinta Brunson? That's her name?
I think
I feel
Quinta
like in
will
her
want.
mind, yeah, I feel like she knows where she's going to go.
She wants to do something else. She will
Yeah.
after 3 or 4 years. She'll
I
want
think so.
Yeah, want to go
so.
direct or do something. But okay, so this whole idea of reasonability and respectability. So I think there are people who would consider themselves allies from our generation, like from either millennial generation or Gen X, who are okay with like the idea of the sexless gay best friend. But then I think even going back further into like boomers who are still contributing to the sociopolitical discourse, they would actually prefer a gay it's the same line. I don't care if you're gay. It's the Anita Bryant line. Like, I don't hate gay people. I just need them to like be gay at home. I think what they would prefer is more of like a Dave Rubin, where it's like, you can't even, you would never know that he's gay. Like, unless he told, where it's just like, I don't need to know the second I meet you that you're gay by the way that your voice sounds or by the way that, and I'm just sort of like, you're literally like talking about and I don't know how people don't hear it, that it's like, you're asking me to like adjust intrinsic aspects of my identity so that I'm presenting to you in a way that feels more heteronormative coded.
That man's evolution. That man, I just think I used way back in the long ago, I listened to his podcast. I was like, where's that guy? What happened to that guy?
Well, and he's sort of their
fat.
He's sort of their perfect archetype for the reasonable gay man. The reasonable gay person, know?
But no, I mean, you're 100% correct. People, I mean, but that's I think with any intersection of marginality, you have the people that, as long as you can perform heteronormativity, as long as you can perform masculinity, as long as or if you're a person of color, if you can perform whiteness, if you can perform, if you're disabled, if you can perform ably. Whatever it is, as long as you can perform normativity, that's what they said. Well, see, they can do it. Why can't you? Oh, he can make his voice sound more straight if he wants to. Why doesn't he do that? I just I don't.
Don just
I
tried to eat his microphone in
I
frustration for anyone
did try
listening
my
to.
microphone. This is gonna be a great still. That's gonna come. It's gonna somebody with Photoshop is gonna do terrible things with that. But yeah, I mean, it's a problem in every community, and that's, I mean, I'm very lucky in the sense that I do still carry quite a lot of privileges, quite a number of privileges. I'm still cisgender. I'm still white. If I were to walk into a room and get up in front of it to speak, not a lot of people would question my right to be in that room.
Mhm.
Though I have been in rooms where where people were like, as soon as I started talking,
Right.
and I didn't sound straight,
Mhm.
then suddenly it was like, don't like him. I had a like my former boss's boss in a previous meeting in that big corporate job sent back notes after I ran a meeting. It had no problem, no problem with the actual content of my meeting, just that I was a little too sassy. Was a little too
Oh.
sassy. And I looked at my boss and she's like, so maybe just next time. I said, before you say another word, would he have said that if I were straight? And she looked at me and she's like, I don't think you want to go down that road. I said, I think I absolutely want to go down that road. I don't think you want to go down this road.
Yeah.
I don't, I
Yes.
don't, I don't think that is a note you want to have given me. And I think you should go back to him immediately and tell him if he ever gives me another note like that, I have no problem burning my career to the ground to make sure that his face and his name becomes the main character of the internet. So why don't we
See,
try that one all over again? Okay. But the thing is, that's because like my mother used to tell me that if you ever get into a room where other people aren't, you need to remember that you represent them as well. And if I'm the first person in that room, I need to make sure that I am not the last person in that room. So it's my job. It's the onus is on me, I think, if I'm the first person to enter a space that's typically not welcoming of queer folks or
mhm.
any intersection of marginality, to be wildly unreasonable, to be unapologetic about standing up for the fact that, like, no, you don't get to just uh, treat me differently. You don't get to invalidate my expertise or experience just because I'm a little sassy.
See,
Like,
and I
that's
think
not
that a lot of
okay.
I think that a lot of these people that are sort of practicing these respectability politics and asking you to be more reasonable would say that the best way to ensure that you're not the last queer person invited into that space is to behave in a more reasonable way, and
Sure.
is to reasonably take the note, to be less sassy, and
Hmm.
to maybe try to make your s's less sibilant. Who knows what the fuck
Yeah.
that means? To be less sassy, I don't know, like like whatever the
And but what's so funny about that is that, like, have you ever been like, I know I have a lot of women friends, and some of them are in various forms of business and different kinds of corporate levels, and they'll go to like women's seminars. And as a gay, sometimes they incorporate me because they think of me as one of the girls, and I'll listen to like women teach each other how to talk about sports so that when they're in corporate settings, they can speak straight man. I'll listen to I'll listen to people talk about how to pick out certain kinds of outfits, how to do their hair in certain ways so that we can all bend to that version. Like the cisgender heterosexual white upper middle class or higher man is not doing any of those things. They are not having to go take classes on how to be in front of themselves.
right, right.
They're not having to go figure out how to speak them. They are them. They are the societal default. Everybody else has to learn how to fit that, and that's dumb because they don't represent everybody. It's dumb that we have to exist in a world where being respectable means erasing the authentic expression of a world of humans, a world of humanity out there, in order to be a simulacrum of Chad.
Well, yes. Simulacrum of Chad is also the title of this episode.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. But I also like I think that this really and I think you're doing this too with the wildly unreasonable slogan and with the merch. I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong. You might be. It's a little tongue in cheek too, because
Yeah.
what I really think is true is that I don't think you actually are being unreasonable. And I think who is being unreasonable is anyone who is propagating white heteronormative culture and demanding that the world around them kowtow to it and assimilate.
Mhm.
I think that's what's unreasonable.
Yeah.
Is looking at an ideologically pluralistic world, a world of this massive plurality of identities and this beautiful diversity that exists in our world, and saying that's fine that all these people exist, but when they're in my space, they need to figure out how to communicate in a way that makes me comfortable.
Right.
And that to me is what's unreasonable. That to me is what is wildly unreasonable, is to say it's totally okay that you exist in whatever weird way you exist in at your house.
Yeah.
But when you're out in public in front of my kids, I need you to try to find a way to pretend that you're not that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's fucking insane.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's actually unreasonable at all to be
No,
like,
I mean, of
no,
course,
I'm
it's
yeah.
sort of like when Mitch McConnell got up in front of the Senate floor and said about Elizabeth Warren. Nevertheless, she persisted. It's like, okay, well, thank you for Elizabeth Warren's, uh, entire thing, entire identity, public identity forever.
Yeah.
When somebody hops in my comments and says, you should, people are trying, you just need to be a little bit more reasonable about, meeting them where they are. I'm like, no, not like that. No, I'm not going to be reasonable when it comes to you telling me that, like, oh, we just didn't know that drag wasn't basically a sex show. There was just no way for us to know that. And so if you could just be a little bit more reasonable, like, we get that we've been passing hundreds of laws all around the country this year to basically erase trans people, queer people from public spaces, but, like, just be reasonable. How could we possibly know? And I'm like, do you really not hear it?
Right.
Do you not hear
Yeah.
it?
So somebody just asked in the comments, and I think that this, I mean,
Oh,
I'm
there's
interested to hear.
comments.
Yeah, there's a little
Oh my God, there are so many
yeah.
comments. I didn't know people were here. Oh, hi, people.
Yeah. Just a handful. There's a small handful that watch it live, and then most people watch it later. But this question of, is there times where you see hope in getting through to someone and feeling the urge to pull back to help them? Not that you need to, but is that a common occurrence? Basically,
of
I think what
course.
they're asking, like, do you feel
anybody with any intersection of marginality can always tell when somebody's trying. And there's a difference, like, so in a lot of my videos and a lot of my content, I will explain a recent law or explain some piece of culture that has come up that I just personally feel inspired to speak about, or that I feel like I have a voice for whatever reason. And I mean, I don't make short videos. I don't just hop on and be like, oh, that sucks. Like, I do go into quite a bit of depth about the history of a particular topic. I'll cite sources. I'll put up articles for you to read, and then, like, literally cite the source so that you can go read it elsewhere. Like, I'm very happy to, like, do the legwork. I also publish books. I'm pretty good about, like, making sure that people can get the information if they want it. But if you can make it through all of that, if you can make it through this 5-minute video, and then at that 8.5-minute video, and then read this book, and then you do all that, and you still come to the end of it and you're like, I don't know, drag is sex, basically drag is sex, and that doesn't belong around my kid, and you're not answering the question. Yeah, like, okay, there's meeting you where you are, and then you're being an obstinate fool, and I don't have time for that, because I just don't know. I don't know that your mind is going to get changed by us bantering on the internet. I just don't know that that's going to fix anything. But yeah, I mean, 100%. If somebody is meeting you in good faith, they're just not where you are on your journey. I mean, the only reason I am who I am and what I am is because other people at one time saw that I was trying. And if I messed up, they very graciously were like, "Okay, so let's course correct. Let's talk about what privilege is, and let's talk about how just because this doesn't mean this and yada yada, because people can always tell you're trying. It's when you are not trying and when you start sea lioning or gaslighting or any of that kind of stuff, that's when I'm like, okay, you're not here to learn. You're not here to listen to learn. You're here to listen to wait your turn to talk. And that's a different
Yeah.
thing.
And if you spend enough time in that space on the internet trying to reasonably educate people, trying to be calm and trying
Mhm.
to provide them with information that they absolutely could have found themselves and that
Yep.
they absolutely could have spent if they actually, but like trying to be like, okay, cool, you seem to be asking some questions, because a lot of people will be like, hey, I'm genuinely curious here, don't hate me. And
Yeah,
I
and
see
I
comments like
do.
this
I
all the
spend a lot
time.
of time. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
very active in
Yeah.
the comment
You
section, and
know,
I'll make reply videos and stuff if somebody isn't getting it. I will be like, "Hey, email me. I'm happy to send you sources or whatever." And I'll, especially over on Instagram where it's a little easier to kind of like pin things and the little highlights or something like, hey, here's a resource list. Here's what you were asking for. And I love that you can put links there. It's like, here, click these. Here's extra learning. Here's
yeah.
better voices than me speaking on this. Here's actual PhDs and actual people whose life's work this is. I'm happy to be a platform to raise up their voices and to put the spotlight where actual research belong, because I don't know everything. I know very little.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we were talking earlier. The more that you know, the higher up your scale of 10 goes.
Sure.
But I know what I don't know, and I'm very thrilled to point people in the right direction. It's just always like when you're not here for that, really, you can usually tell. You can usually tell.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just like, because I will engage with those people from time to time
Yeah.
who are, and but I also want to say this too, that it's like, even those people that are like, hey, I'm genuinely, please don't be mad. I just don't know a lot about this. I'm genuinely curious. Even those people, I'm like, I'll do it from time to time if I have the space and the time to like give a shit about that question. Or sometimes I'll just leave it to the comment. I'll be like, someone else can handle that. But like, I want them to also understand that I'm like, I still don't owe you that. I still
Yeah. Oh
don't
yeah.
actually, and I
I
don't
don't.
owe you, I don't owe you like delivering that information and with
Mhm.
any kind of tone that will make it easier for you to digest. Like, this is all information that is readily available to you. This conversation that's happening around whether or not we should be nice to queer people is like, it's old. It's old. It's
It's
been
so
going
old.
on since before you or I were born, and
Mhm.
the conversation has not evolved much. It
No.
hasn't really like grown new legs, or like there haven't been like new interesting arguments put forth. I made a video like 2 or 3 years ago. I think when the Don't Say Gay bill was first happening in Florida, which I think was
Mm.
like a year and a half, 2 years ago, something like that. And I just was like, listen, I can't believe we're about to enter back into this discourse in our sociopolitically. Like, we're about to get back into all of the same shit of like whether or not it's okay for kids to see gay people existing and stuff. And I was like,
Yeah.
we already did all this. And I just was like,
Yeah.
and I've been doing this in my life
Yeah.
for the last 20 years. And what I can tell you is, there are no good arguments from the other
No.
side. I've heard every single iteration of every possible argument, and there are no good ones. The only one that people have that I can go like, okay, I'll let you have that is like my religion. And I'm like, okay, great, your religion. And you can keep that and you can go do that at your church where they do that.
Yeah.
And that's,
And
and that,
I'm thrilled, and I'm like, listen, whatever it is that is your faith and your religion, between you and the gods of your understanding, that is fantastic. But it's the unicorn in the shoes argument. You can believe that unicorns are in your shoes, and you can believe that you need to put your shoes on in a certain way so as not to harm the unicorns. The problem is if you start telling me how I'm supposed to put my shoes on so I don't harm the unicorns, and then you make laws
right.
about shoe putting on. and how
Yeah.
shoes should be made so that they're more accommodating to unicorns. We're not, no, that's where we start having a problem.
Yeah, and also the only reason why I allow people to have the unicorn belief or whatever is because it's unfalsifiable, and I'm just sort of like, that's fine. You can go ahead and hang on to that. But I'm like, even if we wanted to get into the weeds on that argument, I could be like, I'm pretty sure your evidence that your religion is against this thing is also pretty thin. If we wanted to get into that, I could be like, you're using one verse from one book that has been translated and retranslated and retranslated and retranslated to justify this entire culture of social prejudice and bigotry. And that to me is like, it's too thin. Like, I would need more substance in your book that verifies that this is how you're supposed to behave to these people in order for me to be like, okay, yeah, it's very clear in your book that your God is telling you to be really rude to these people. And that's
Mhm.
but I'm like, it's not clearly in there to me. It's just not like, but I'm like, whatever. It's unfalsifiable. It's magic book stuff, and I'll let you have it just out of basic respect of whatever you want your spiritual practice to be.
Sure.
But it's still like pretty weak, even as like a religious argument. It's pretty weak, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked to a lot of people in a lot of spiritual spaces, and anytime that they start intersecting with science or any level of, proof, I always like to say, okay, so, I wrote a whole book about magical thinking. It was my last book.
Mm.
You know, I, I spent a lot of time kind of like debunking some things and talking about the Barnum effect and the Forer effect and the crystal mining industry and all of that kind of thing. Not to dissuade people from magical thinking and whatever it is that gives them some kind of spiritual practice spiritual fulfillment, if that's where they want to find it. It's that so that when you do that, you know what it is that you are taking on faith, not so that you're not going, oh well, see, it's been proven that this crystal, if I put this crystal in my hoo-ha, it's going to actually scientifically do this to my chakras. Like, it is not going to do that. In fact, it's probably going to give you copper poisoning, but like, like, don't do that.
Yeah.
But like, so, I wish that people understood that when it comes to spiritual beliefs, spiritual practices, that kind of thing, um, when people try to use that as evidence, or when they try to prove their own spirituality or spiritual faith or whatever, I'm like, okay, let's don't do that, because that's not a road you really want to go down. Like, I think you need to understand the difference between like belief or faith and proof, um, because they're not really going to intersect as often as you think they are. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
The book says that the book is true does not qualify as empirical evidence that the book is true. The
Well, I mean, if it does, then I'm very upset at the absence of the X-Men.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Very upset.
Says right here in this book that they should be here. Yeah.
I think I should be at the School for Gifted Youngsters, and
Yeah.
I'm very upset that I've not gotten that invitation.
I thought it was so funny. You have this video where you talk about, which I also think it's a very well done, well written, and heartwarming video, and also heartbreaking video, where you talk about just wanting to be a kid growing
Yeah.
up, because people are like, it's again this thing of, I have no problem with queer people existing. Doesn't bother me. I'm not a bigot, but can we keep it away from kids? Just let kids be kids. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure is what this commenter said. And you talked about like being bullied and
Yeah.
you were just trying to be a kid. And this sort of idea of like, yeah, but also queer kids exist and are just trying to be kids. But I thought in that video, I thought it was funny that you were like, some of the boys wanted to play sports and I wanted to play superheroes. And they called me a girl for that. And I'm like, wait, hold on. What's wrong with wanting to play superheroes? Like,
Well, but I mean, and some people heard the first 30 seconds and got done with it, but I
yeah,
understand it was a very long video,
no,
but
I
it was,
like it a lot. Yeah.
I grew up in the intersection of Friday Night Lights and Footloose, in a very literal way. Like, our school did not have a prom on campus because dancing is a sin. So that's the kind of Baptist community that I grew up in. But I grew up in a world where football was king, and but I just was not remotely interested in sports. I was very interested in Power Rangers. I was very interested in X-Men, but I was also, the rest of that sentence is, but I was also much softer than the other boys. And when I went to McDonald's, I wanted the Barbie Happy Meal, and all of my friends were girls. And so, yeah, I loved superheroes, but I also wanted to be, I wanted to be the pretty superhero, and I wanted to be, have the Barbie Happy Meal, and I want to do all those kinds of things. And that didn't fit in with what they understood a boy to be. It flew in the face of what they thought boy was. So they didn't like it, and they were like, well, if you're not boy, then you must be girl. So that's what they called me, because we didn't have that language at that time. So that, I get chased around and beaten up, called a girl, which is a pretty universal experience.
Yeah, I always love when I hear like a trans woman saying like, I grew up and you were all calling me a girl. Like when I
Yeah.
was like a kid, you were all calling me a girl.
Mhm.
And then I grew up and I was like, I think I am a girl. And you were all like, no, you're not.
Yeah, no, you're not. How dare you?
Absolutely
It's
no,
like,
you're not. How dare you do that? It's like you all called me a girl when I was
yeah,
like,
you thought I was this whole time. And then I'm
yeah,
like, I think you're right. And they're like, no, not like
absolutely
that.
not. Yeah, not like that.
No,
No.
not like that.
Yeah, exactly.
We didn't want this to be empowering.
Right.
We wanted it to hurt, because we hate girls, and being girl is bad.
Yeah.
So girl is insult.
Oh God, that's a whole podcast we could do too. Is just like,
Yeah. Well, I would be the
just
wrong person for that, because I'm not girl.
right,
So,
but like just like the misogyny inherent in homophobia and transphobia
oh
and
gosh, yeah.
and
And the
why
femphobia and the racism,
yeah.
and the racial infrastructure of the queer community, and it's a mess.
Yeah, people
It's
are always
a
like,
gross mess.
how come we don't everything's about trans women and we sort of just like don't really talk about trans men? And it's like, well, it's the same thing. It happens the same way with like, and people do, and people are bigoted towards trans men and are bigoted towards lesbians, but like in general, there's this societal transgression of like a
Yeah.
man behaving in a feminine way, someone who
Well,
is supposed to be
to be
socially
crass,
male.
it's because men hear, you did what with your dick?
Yeah,
What'd you do? Why'd you do that? Don't do
yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're like, they think cutting off peepees, and then they just freak out.
It's a
What?
transgression of the
Yep.
masculine. Like you're not
Yep.
supposed
Yep.
to.
Yep.
The masculine is supposed to be this
Yep.
like sacred, holy thing, and anything that takes you away from a heteronormative ideal of what is masculine is this massive societal taboo. Yeah,
Yep.
which fuck that. Uh, Getting back into this reasonability thing really quick though. All the because we could go through all of the bad arguments that they always have, and I'm not really interested in recapping that. I think it's sufficient to say that I have yet in my life to hear an argument that's even remotely compelling as to like why we should marginalize or other queer people. I don't think a good argument exists. I don't even think a remotely compelling one exists. And this one is, I think people who can acknowledge that there are no good arguments available to them, I think they go to this reasonability thing because they're like, okay, fine, yeah, I have no good reason to dislike these people, but could they just like tone it down? And sure, maybe if you're dealing with a person who's like, I'm genuinely asking a question, I'm not trying to be obtuse or annoying, I'm really trying to learn, maybe you can try to treat that person with I don't know, but I
Yeah,
definitely come back to it
and
and I
like I
go,
said, you can always tell when somebody is approaching with the right spirit. When I have said something in a way that makes something click for them for the first time.
yes,
And I've had a lot of that, and I'm very grateful. This year has kind of been a wild ride for me in social media. So, a lot more people are seeing the way that I present information. And for whatever reason, sometimes when I say things and the way that I say things, and maybe the face helps, the snark helps, or maybe the sass helps. I don't know. But for some reason, sometimes some people, it just suddenly clicks.
Mhm.
I can't tell you the number of people, the number of cisgender heterosexual men that like emailed me or sent me a DM or left a comment or something like that, and were like, this is the first time I got it. Like, if you had asked me this question yesterday, I would have said that like basically queer people are predators, but I got it, and now I feel awful. And it's like, just something will click. And so you can always tell when something has just clicked and now somebody is trying to unlearn some stuff and go on that journey, and they don't have all the right words and all the right language yet. And that is when I will meet you where you are. I'm 100% here for imperfect allies. I'm not here for people whose allyship is conditional.
Well, and that's the thing about this work, right? Is it's tedious work that is a lot of repeating yourself. And
Yes.
because a lot of times, like, because people will tell me the same thing too. They'll be like, I'd never heard it like that. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I've been saying it like this for a while now.
Long
But
time.
I'm like, yeah, to lots of different people. And it's
And
a
other
matter of
people
just,
say it better than
yep.
me.
And
Like,
other,
I'm just glad
yeah,
I'm here
yeah.
for you.
And I'm not necessarily saying anything that hasn't been said a million times,
Yep.
exactly, by other people.
Yep.
But like sometimes a person just needs to hear again and again, that's just a person. So it's just
Yep.
like, hey, that trans person is just a person. That's just a
person.
different kind of person that exists. Yep. And they just need to hear that again and again and again until all of a sudden one day it's just like, oh, that's just a person. That's just a person having a human experience.
Sometimes you needed it in a funny song. Sometimes you needed to see it in a skit. Sometimes you needed to hear it in a heartbreaking story. Sometimes it needed to be a dirty song. Sometimes it needed to be whatever. And whatever it is, all the little teeny tiny, it all adds up.
And maybe sometimes they needed to hear it in a way that felt really reasonable and kind. And maybe sometimes they needed to hear it in a way that felt like it shook them to life. Like someone grabbed them and went, hey, motherfucker, you're a bigot. And they went, oh my God, I'm a bigot. Oh my God. Whoa. Yeah. And it's like, and
that's the part I
don't think that there's any.
That's right. I'm real good at that. I'm like, hey, you're doing a homophobia. Don't do that anymore. This is bad.
Off.
Also, you look in 2023. Are we still doing homophobia? Oh my God! Look at you being retro.
You're embarrassing yourself. You're embarrassing. It's
so embarrassing.
Yeah, like knock it off.
You know that you're doing that in public, right? This is a Whole Foods. I don't think they allow that here.
Yeah, this idea that if queer people would just, and their allies and their advocates would just tone it down, suddenly the world would become less homophobic.
I'm gonna be real honest. If you consider yourself an ally, I need you to tone it up. I need you to tone it way, way up, because we're tired. I would like to not have to spend so much time defending my existence. It'd be great. It'd be better if you guys. There's another creator, something Blue Dot, and she's great.
Love her.
She's
Blue Hand Blue Dot.
Yes, she does. She does a ton of content where she's really doing that. That is what an ally looks like, where it's like, here, I've got all the privilege in the world. I'm a cisgender, heterosexual, white, blonde lady. I'm comfy and I'm good, and I will sit here and tell you to your face, here's all of the resources, here's da 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 da, and then I will take the heat. And that's, sometimes I just need you to do that, because we're tired of being targets. It would be great if we could just rest for a second and not have to have us going to the store be a political act. Sometimes I just want to go to Target and put a little drinky drink in my hands, and I just want to go. And I don't want to have it be a political act. Like, I don't want to have every single heartbeat be, a drum on a freaking resistance line. Sometimes you just want to breathe, and sometimes you just want to exist. But the more intersections, and I have it so much better than other people. I have it so much better than, my husband is from Mexico. He's a Mexican immigrant. The world that he lives in is vastly different than the world that I live in. I mean, he has an entire doctorate, and he'll walk into a room and somebody will tell him that, and he'll start asking questions of a patient, and they'll say, oh, we'll let the doctor know. He's like, who the fuck do you think I am? The fuck? I don't.
It's like that moment from the Barbie trailer with Greta Gerwig, where Ryan Gosling's like, and can I talk to a doctor? And it's a woman, and she's like, you are talking to a doctor. And
Yeah.
he's like, no, 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 I need to talk to a man. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It's
literally
like,
like,
and it's like, the world that he lives in is vastly different than the world I live in, but the world that, the Black trans woman lives in is far and away a world that I do not live in. And so if ever I can take on some of that heat so that that person does not have to have those conversations and that person can feel protected, that is my job, as their ally, because people with privilege, it is our job to take on the heat for those of us with less privilege. So as tired as I am, there's a whole lot of people who are way more tired and been tired for a whole lot longer than me. So, the work continues.
well said. Absolutely. I wanted to talk about rainbow capitalism a little bit because I did say that we were going to come back to
Yes.
that, and you did bring
Yes.
up Target and having a little drinky
Yes.
drink in your hand.
Thank you.
And
I did that
I
so you could come back. I'm a
y-
professional podcaster. Do you like
thank you
that?
very
I'm
much
I'm
for
helping
bringing
you.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for bringing it back. That was fantastic.
Thank you
I
so
just
much. So
like
natural.
I wanted I just in general like want to know sort of like what your thoughts are on like corporate pride support and stuff like that, and especially right now in this year where we've had these like pretty successful boycotts of like Bud
Yeah.
Light and Target that have actually been affecting
Yeah.
profit margins for these companies. I
Yeah.
like I'm like there's part of me that goes like, oh no, that's us losing ground in the culture war somehow. And then there's also part of me that's like, I don't actually give a fuck about Anheuser-Busch or about Target and their performative support of this or that community.
So,
So,
I've been around the space a long time, and I these are conversations that the queer community has been having internally for a very long time, and our view, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but the majority of the conversations that I've seen tend to boil down to, okay, where is the money really going? Where is the money actually going? Like, okay, sell what you want to sell. Where's the money going? Like, Black History Month, February. Target runs around and pulls every black doll off the shelf and every book written by a black author, and they put it on a table and stick it up at the front and say, "Look, we're doing an allyship." It's like, okay, where is the money go? I mean, okay, so you're making a profit off of Black History Month, so we're profiting off of Black people. Where is the money going from the sales of that? How are your internal policies towards people of color, specifically Black people? What does your leadership look like? Same thing in Pride Month. Same thing there. Same thing with any intersection of marginality. So it's like, okay, great. You guys want to sell some rainbow thongs or whatever. Cool. Where are the profits going? Like, I was a big, loud, angry, voice for many years of the fact that Target for a long time, and I don't actually know what's happened in the last couple of years because I think it's gotten kind of vague. I from what I've looked up, it's gotten even more vague about what happens with the money. But queer folks for a long time have been saying like we want like there should be a share of the profits should be going to
mhm,
queer charities. And what Target was doing was they were making like uh, a nominal donation, like small for Target, like $100,000
yeah,
to like the HRC,
yeah.
and then making however much money they were making off of
It's like
rainbow
10, it's like
stuff.
$10.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, make your donation, sure, but then also the profits from these need to go to queer folks. I mean, we're not represented in this. I mean, this stuff is only around this month, uh, which is different than other months. I mean, those Black authors are on those shelves all the time. It's like, y'all are doing very specifically a whole bunch of rainbow stuff all at once in June. So where are the profits from that going? What do the policies look like? Um, are they egalitarian? Are they equitable to queer folks inside of your company? How are queer folks treated? Are there queer people in leadership? Are they supported? Are queer people supported inside of your company? Um, do you also give equally or more to politicians or organizations who fight against queer people? Because that happens a lot, like a lot of the companies. that people are like, oh, they went so woke. I'm like, do you have any idea how much money they're given to conservative politicians that are actively working against our lives? Like, I don't call that woke. I call that playing both sides of the fence.
It's capitalism.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So it's like we're glad it's there because representation is good. Any consistent representation helps people from an in group uh, slowly become aware and accustomed to people of an out group and to start seeing those people from an out group as part of their in group. Yay, Sociology 101. So any little bit of representation, any little bit of exposure helps. And it helps especially for those Target stores or those little, some grocery stores and stuff will have a teeny tiny little pride section or something, maybe like a rainbow tumbler or something. But in smaller towns and more rural areas, that little section, that little tiny pride section is a lifeboat. That is a life preserver for some people where they're like, I'm not alone. There are other people like me. There is a way out. I'm not the only one. And that means a whole lot. And I mean, I've came from a town of 585 people. Let me tell you, any little thing was a big deal where I was from. So it's all good. What's scary is how quickly it goes away. So, like, that's why. Do I love giving Target my money? No. Do I want to make sure that the Pride stuff come back next year? Yes. Do I
I'm
love what they actually put out? No, I think it's stupid and trite. But I'm still going to go buy a t-shirt because
yeah.
I want it to come back next year because I'm kind of afraid after this year it will either not come back or not come back in all the markets it was in this year or come back and be very tiny.
Yeah, because it's uh, like I give Target my money because if it's Target or Walmart, I just like prefer Target. It has nothing
Sure,
to do with their
sure.
politics, has nothing to do. It's just like I just prefer as like
Yeah.
a person who lives in capitalism. I'm just like, sure, if I got to go to one of those stores, I go to Target, and I just prefer aesthetically that store. But like I don't I don't think that Target's being any more ethical with my money
No.
than any other store will
They
be.
have they Target is the superfood of the big box store. They are just a regular food with some really good PR. They're just a nut with some real good PR. That's like, oh, we're higher in antioxidants. Like, no, bestie, you are the same as everybody else. You guys are just you did those like little designer capsule collection. Like you put your little spit polish and you made yourself be like the
Yeah,
uppity big box store. And listen, it works.
yeah,
I would prefer to go to Target. I mean, it worked on me.
yeah,
I who doesn't love a Target run?
yep,
I don't. Why do you go to Target? I don't know. I don't need anything from there. There is nothing that I'm like, oh yeah, I have to go to Target because they have this one specific thing. No, I can get it cheaper somewhere else. You go there because it's a thing. I don't know
yep,
why. It's
yeah,
sick. It's in your
yeah,
DNA. I
yeah.
think
But
it's the microplastics. I think that's what it is.
yeah,
I think it's something.
so I
A
definitely
fluoride in the water.
I don't give a shit about these companies' profit margins or anything like
No.
that. But I think that you make a really, really good point about just what that kind of visibility of those kind of symbols and signaling can mean, especially in rural communities and really religious communities where there's kids coming back to kids, that it's like queer kids exist and they are having an experience that we need to be uh cognizant of, and like we need to be trying to raise them in a world where they have hope for a future where they can see themselves represented. And sometimes just being it, like, because yeah, I don't want to live, I as much as I don't give a shit about uh Target's profits,
Yeah.
I also don't want to live in a world where like bigots are able to dictate to these companies whether or not they can performatively show support of marginalized
Right.
communities,
Right.
and
I don't
yeah,
want to live in the I mean, if they can scream and shout with their voice, then I can scream and shout with my dollar, and I would hope that my dollar wins. But That's where we need the allies. That's where earlier when I was like, okay, allies, you got to tone it up.
Mm.
If the bigots are out smashing stuff, maybe go smash. Maybe y'all do whatever that is in reverse. Y'all go buy some stuff. Y'all go use your dollars. Y'all go. But also yes, and go find queer businesses to support. Go find queer indie artists to support. Go find queer mutual aid organizations in your area to support. Go support the HRC. Go give your money directly to a drag queen story hour. Like
Yes.
go into your local area. I'm working with randomly a few months ago, I found this little indie this little family that started making coffee like in their backyard, and I tried their coffee and put it on my social media, and they kind of blew up. And we decided that we would do kind of a little thing for Pride Month, and I said, okay, let's do a little limited run coffee thing, maybe add a couple of extra bucks to it so that you guys are still paid, but there's something that we can give back to the queer community, but make sure it's just in your local area. I don't want any money from it. Let's just make sure that it's in your local area. What queer charities are in your area? And they're in a kind of a more not quite rural, but kind of exurban area of, I think, North Carolina. And they were like, we have been looking, and the best we can do is there is a suicide hotline in the area that like does a lot of queer outreach, and there's just really not anything else. And I was like, well, it's better than nothing, but man, that's something. But it's something I relate to. I mean, I'm from an area like that where there's just no queer outreach. There's just no queer visibility, no voice. The only thing that's there is well, don't die, don't unalive yourself, like, and that's where a lot of people are. So that's why it's important to, yes, shop small, but maybe also throw a few dollars at the rainbow capitalism that you see, if you see it somewhere, so that maybe that will be there for those tiny areas out in the middle of nowhere. Maybe that Walmart will have, but Walmart has a pride section. Why didn't they get all this hate?
Yeah, exactly.
But maybe some Walmart somewhere, maybe some rainbow will be there for some kid that needs it next year.
Yeah, somebody in the comments made that point too, that they were like, all these people, picketing.
I keep forgetting there's comments. Hi, comments.
People are like, all these people picketing Target are probably picking Walmart anyway. They're probably people that go to Walmart anyway. I was like, yeah, it's true. A lot of them. But this has been fantastic. It's been really, really lovely talking with you.
Oh, I do like that. Somebody
What?
asked about the "We're here, we're queer, and we're coming for your kids"
Did you see
chant.
that?
I
Yeah.
did. So to debunk that real quick, so at the very beginning of that video, the person either recording the video or somebody else, because the actual chant comes from the AIDS crisis in the 80s. The actual chant is we're here, we're queer, we're not going shopping. And there's this whole history of the chant, but somebody one person at the beginning said in the most sarcastic way, and of course it's now been taken out and run off and without context, to say, we're here, we're queer, oh, we're coming for your children.
And it's the person filming. It's like the person with the phone. And I think some people in the crowd, if you've ever been to a protest, all it takes is someone to stand up and yell something and people just sort of repeat. There's sort of a parroting effect. And there are a couple people like in the immediate vicinity of the filmer who like also say, we're coming for your kids.
The whole rest of the parade, if
they're all saying
the audio and watch their lips, and then it only happens that one time, then for the rest of the clip it's all just, we're here, we're queer, we're not going shopping, and that's what they say for the whole rest of the time. Like, it's not a thing that really happened, and that first thing is just somebody being like, oh, better keep us away, we're scared, we're coming for your kids. Like, they were very clearly being sarcastic, and it's just unfortunately they were sarcastic in public.
Well,
and again, be sarcastic in public, because the people that hate us will take every it's like those people that were trying to say that President Biden admitted to treason or something, because he was like, oh, I like to hide documents too, or something. Like, he made some joke or something a few days ago. It was like clearly a joke. It was so clearly a joke. that is being taken wildly out of context.
Well, and it just fuels into, again, the terrible, the sea of terrible arguments that come from these people
Yeah.
that are all unoriginal and all have been used a million times before, and it's nothing new. Goes all the way. I mean, Anita Bryant was saying this. It goes all the way back that that they're coming for your kids, and that's the
Yeah.
big thing that everyone, like, hey, I got no problem. It's just the kids, and I'm like, if you're a person in 2023 who actually believes that kids can be trans or turned gay by seeing gay or trans people existing in reality, then I don't know. It's like, then you're not. Then I can't help you. Like, you're not a
Listen, there
serious
is
person.
no drag queens do not turn anyone gay. Toby Maguire turns people gay when he gets bitten by a spider and then stands in front of a mirror and flexes his new abs and says, "I'm fine." That's
Yeah,
how you turn gay.
but it's like I love those memes too. Like, this isn't how the drag queens don't turn people gay, and then everyone's been showing like the thing that gave me my sexual awakening or whatever, the image or the pop culture icon
I
that made,
did, I did, I did, I did. I had in the early days of DVD play, I had the DVD player and I only had like 3 movies, and that was one of them. And I replayed that scene a lot. And I was like, this is an interesting scene. This scene very specifically should win an Oscar. I don't
well,
know why, but it
and
should.
and if it were true that your
Mhm.
environment is what determines your
Oh,
sexuality,
I'd be an
then you'd
awful
be,
man. I would be a terrible
yeah,
person if it were. And you
exactly.
just, yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
I'd
what I
be
was,
a
because
bad person.
based on the place that you were raised and based on the
Yeah.
people that you were, the people you were raised around and the community and the culture, there's no way that you would have been pausing and
Honest to
rewinding that
God,
Tobey
being
Maguire
gay
clip.
saved my life because I just, oh man, I can't imagine. I just know that there is some alternate universe version of me where some little whatever makes you gay, some little something in your DNA twisted in just a different way. And there's a straight version of me in some multiverse. And that man is sad. That man is sad. And I'm just so glad I'm not him because the world is so much bigger for me than it is for him. That man is probably still living in that small town and thinking that he's still very smart and he's still very witty, but his world is much smaller than mine is. And I'm grateful every day.
I used to say, when I first started engaging with this work when I was like 19, 20, it took me a while to start, being more vocal about it and stuff. But I when I first started, kind of really, this has been a cause that's been near and dear to my heart for a very long time. This is sort of the thing that sort of
Mhm.
was the catalyst for my like religious deconversion and stuff like that. Is I just had too many friends who were queer who I just was like, like I can't conceive of this person any other way than how I know them, which is just like, I love them and I can't, and but my whole life people have been asking me if I'm gay because there's just something in my energy which I'm totally cool with, because I'm like, I like it. In fact, I'm kind of offended when people are like, "Nah, you're really straight." I'm like, "What the fuck does that
Oh,
mean?" You
I,
know?
if it, I don't know what this, well, I don't know what this says then, but
Yeah,
I never thought you were gay. I
yeah,
always
that's all
thought you
right.
were straight. I'm
That's okay.
sorry.
That's okay. But
I'm so sorry.
that's okay.
It's the
But
it is the shirt. It's
but
it's only the shirt. It's it's it. I mean, I just
this is
yeah.
how I signal. It's not rainbow. It's just bland, straight horizontal lines.
Straight.
Okay. But I used to
I'm gonna
say,
see that in a skit of yours
yeah,
soon. You can tell I'm straight, and you can tell
I
by the
only wear shirts
straightness
with
of the
straight.
lines on my shirt.
Hold a ruler up to that. You see that?
Yeah.
That's uh
Hold a ruler.
yeah. But I used to say to people, when they would ask me that, I go, sometimes I wish that I was, just because I think it would help my family out. I think it would like, because
Clear a few things up for them.
yeah, and
Make
like,
a few things make more sense.
and to be fair, my family is all great now. Like, everyone in my family is like really, like, I think, on the right side of history, and everyone's like pulling in the same direction when it comes to this issue, at least. And but at the time when I was like the first person in my family to like leave the religion that I was raised in and stuff. And this was a big thing that we would argue about. And I'd be like, sometimes I wish I was queer just so that I could like be a person that they have to love, that I'd be like, well, you don't get to not love me. You have to like, so you have to make a choice, you know, if you, and then also I think sometimes I just like, I don't know, I just love queer people so much. I just like love queer culture, and like I'm like obsessed with drag culture, and like, and I'm a musical theater guy, and I just have
What was
always
your
been
big
like,
show? What was your
oh,
big show?
I'm a big like Stephen Sondheim person, and like when he died, it like really devastated me. I cried for like an entire day about it, and
I was
and
in, let's see, I was in, I think the first musical I was in was Wizard of Oz. I was the Tin Man. Um, let's see, what did I do later? I did, I was at theater camp and we did Into the Woods, and I was one of the princes. I don't remember which. It doesn't matter. They don't actually have names in the script. They're just like Cinderella's prince and Rapunzel's prince, which is fantastic, which is the way it
yep,
should be.
yep, the princes,
It's
yep,
Into the
yep.
Woods is very much giving like uh you know, she's everything and he's just Ken. Like that's who the princes are in Into the Woods. It's
Well,
like
and like, and
they're just
fair,
Ken. Yeah,
like that's
no
how those
personality
stories are
whatsoever.
written. Is it's just
Yeah.
like, well, it's
Though I will
about,
say Agony is the best. It is the best song
it's incredible.
in Into the Woods. Yeah.
Well, and
Agony is the
the
best.
whole theme of these men thinking that like this conquest is going to make their lives complete, and then once they get it, they're like, oh, I guess never mind. I don't
Yeah.
know what it is to be happy. And but I think I think I'm living proof that if someone were capable of choosing their orientation in the world, that because I'm like, I don't think I would have chosen to be a hetero cis guy. I really don't. Like a lot of times I'm just like, I don't relate to this culture or to these
Can't
people.
relate.
And it
Couldn't
just
be
is a
me.
thing where I'm like, just is
Yeah,
what it
but
is.
see, you have like John Hodgman vibes in like all of the correct ways. Like very much John Hodgman energy, just like if that is not the gayest straight man, like that is like gay culture in a man. Like
Yeah.
just snarky, erudite, uh yeah, I almost said fluffernutter and I don't know why. But it felt right. So there you go. Just like just stiff and in all the correct ways. Where are you doing? Where is your? Are you? Do you make more songs? Where are your songs? Because I feel like I had
Yeah.
your song as a ringtone for a while there. I don't remember which one it was, but it was fantastic.
It was a big part of the content for a while there. For like a good like year and a half, I was making songs
Yeah,
like,
that's how I found you.
yeah, I was making songs like once a week that with
People
like a
found me
full,
from my
yeah.
trauma, so yours is better. I think
Well,
funny songs is better than hey, I'm the sad gay of the week.
I kind of burn it out. I was talking to a friend
Yeah,
about this the
I
other
get
day.
it.
Like it's sort of the same bit over and over again, because the joke is like I'm gonna write like a catchy synth wave, like synth pop song
Yeah,
about this sociopolitical thing,
yeah,
like this like and that joke I made like 65 of them, and I'm like,
I
that's a lot of
know.
times to like
Yeah,
reinvent that joke. And
uh-huh.
even though every song is different, it's still essentially the same format.
Mhm.
And I think I just sort of exhausted it for myself, and also like they're just high effort videos to
Yeah,
make. It's
oh,
like
no.
I have to spend like a week producing the
And
song,
you know
and
what
then
I
I have
hate
to,
about the platform is that the more effort you spend on something, the fewer people see it.
right, right.
I will spend a week prepping. There will be props. I will write a script. I will tape a script to a ring light, and there will be microphones, and I will do a script, and I will think it's very funny, and
Um,
450 people will see it, and then I will make a 12-second video in a fit of snark, and I won't even remember making it, and I will wake up and 3 million people will have seen it, and I'm like, there's something wrong here. This math problem is not doing the math correctly.
Yeah, a big part of why I was making the songs too is I thought, oh, because they were doing numbers and they were doing well,
Yeah,
and but I was like, oh, this will be a great way for me to also introduce to the audience that I'm a musician with like actual
yeah, sure.
music on
Yeah,
Spotify and stuff that they can go stream. But like it didn't translate. Like everyone
yeah.
was like, you should put out an actual album, and I was like, oh, I have.
The number of
You
people who
can
get into my comments and are like, I really love your voice and the way you explain things. I wish you would write a book. And I'm like, I've written 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've written 3.
And good luck trying to make
Oh
a video
gosh,
telling people that those books
oh my
exist.
God.
And
And
yeah.
oh, I love your voice. I could listen to it all day. Well, guess what? I have an entire podcast,
And
and
good,
and Simon and Schuster had me narrate my audiobook last time. So you have several hundred hours of me to listen to if that is what your cotton picking heart desires.
but I saw a video that you posted of you talking to David Archuleta on your podcast, and I literally
That
was
came
like,
out today.
and it made me feel uh I related to you because I was like, I know exactly the struggle of posting a video from my podcast and being like, I really wish this would do the same numbers that my other
Yeah.
videos do. But it's like the algorithm's just like, absolutely not. We're not going to let you tell people that this podcast
I
exists.
I
And you're like,
have see what I love is that there's this myth that once you hit a certain follower count, well, you're making money.
mhm,
And that is a lie. This is a
no,
lie.
it's not true.
I fully have a day job, like a full on 9 to 5, Monday through Friday day job. I just took today off because I'm finishing a book. So another book. I've written 3 this year. It
Wow.
sucks. I am very tired. In 3 different genres too. I'm an insane person.
Wow.
And my agent is like, "What are you doing? Stop it,
That's
pickling."
impressive. Wow.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
so
have you ever met an overachiever kid, like a former, like one of those like gifted and talented
yeah,
overachiever
sure.
kids? Like this is
Yeah.
what we do in life. It's like, well, I can be everything. I'll teach myself. I'll be all I'll be the Ronan Farrow of the nonfiction world. I'll be the Neil Gaiman of the fiction world, and I'll be the Billy Collins of the poetry world.
Can't
And
waste that potential,
yeah, just
that
nope.
potential. Yeah.
They told me I could be everything, so I'm gonna be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know what I was talking about, but yeah, people will be like, "Oh, I wish you'd do stuff," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm doing it. It's
Yeah.
there." Oh, that's people think you hit a follower count and you make money. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, see, I have the follower count that I could make, like this could be my full-time job, but the math problem that runs all these apps where I have these big followings, they won't let you know that those other things exist.
Yeah. It's
So
very fun.
I can't get enough people to listen to my show that I could monetize it in a way that I could maybe eat.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really fun. I'm making a video right now for YouTube about the algorithm because I think it's funny anytime people think that they've like hacked it or figured it out, or all these
Love
people
that.
that tell you like what, and I'm just like, no, nobody actually,
My
this thing is
favorite thing. I
yeah.
had a friend who I've known for a long time. She was like, you shared a video of mine to your Instagram stories, and I got 3,000 hits off of that. I don't know why I'm paying Instagram. I should just pay you to share stuff for me. I was like, okay, well, first of all, stop paying Instagram. Stop,
Mhm.
stop doing that. And also, she's like, well, but I got this advice from these social media people. I'm like, okay, first of all, don't. Second of all, the social media guru that you're paying money towards to give you all this advice has 400 followers.
Yeah, right.
Stop it. Like
Right.
it's always like, oh, here's how the algorithm changed this month. You want to know how all these algorithms really work is consistency
Mhm.
and authenticity. People can tell when you're putting on an act and that you're being kind of fake on social media, like when everything's a little too staged and a little too planned and a little too stuff, but it's just really consistency. Some other much bigger creator was like social media, especially like after kind of last year when Instagram's whole thing got all effed, and suddenly you post a photo and yesterday it would have gotten 70,000 likes and now it's getting 7. And they were trying to transition hard to video, but even that wasn't taking off at the time. He was like, social media is a great place to get discovered. It is not a great place to work. It's not a great place to rely on for money. Like the idea of the full-time like influencer, I think it's dying a death.
Oh yeah.
Which
I
is
mean,
good.
well,
I'm
because
happy about that.
yeah,
I'm not mad at that, but like it's
yeah,
okay. So I've got 400,000 followers across socials. Cool. That's not That's nothing. And it's not,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean anything. I don't get a paycheck from that.
Yeah, the key, because yeah, the only thing that you can rely on with the algorithm is like that you have to consistently post, but what you can
Yeah.
definitely count on is that it will be consistently inconsistent with how many
Yeah.
people it
Yeah.
shows your content to, and like,
So you just
and
have
that's
to
just
make
you just have
stuff
to.
and put it out there.
But it's so I think about it all the time. Like it's so crazy because it's like it's not like when people used to be making TV shows and the show would get canceled or picked up based on how many people tuned in, because
Oh,
it's not this. It's like this is like if you were, let's say you were a writer on Friends, and you're like, this episode that I wrote, that I spent, we worked really hard on the cast, everyone worked just as hard on it. 15 million people tuned in to watch this episode,
yeah.
and then
Nielsen
the
ratings.
very next week on Thursday night, it's Thursday night NBC. Everybody's tuning in for whatever reason. 3,000 people watch the show the
Yeah.
next Thursday night, and it's
Yeah.
like, why? And you're like, but we worked just as hard on
Yeah.
this episode, and then like whoever wrote that episode's like, oh my God, like I wrote that episode. Like
Yeah.
what's wrong
Yeah.
with my episode? It's just like,
Yeah.
for whatever reason, the algorithm of TV that week was
Yeah.
just like, we're not going to tell anyone that the show's on this week.
Yeah.
No one's going to know that the show's on this week.
It's
And
like,
it's like,
and what's hilarious is like people will get in my comments and be like, "Where have you been all this time?" I'm like, "I have had a podcast since 2009. I have been
yeah,
on social media for a very long time. I have no idea why the math problem decided this January that suddenly everybody was going to know who I was. But like, I've been on this upward trajectory this year, and I'm not mad about it. It
right.
certainly opened a lot of doors and put me in a lot of new rooms. But like, it's also fickle, and you
Yeah.
really just kind of have to do it until it just suddenly, maybe your number is going to get picked, and maybe, take advantage of it if it does. Try to meet
But
the road as it rises before you.
you're doing what I think you're supposed to do, which is you're not like sitting around and waiting. You're being proactive about like writing the books and
Oh
doing the
yeah.
work. And I think that's
Yeah.
great. What are your books called that people can look for if they want to read something by
My
you? Or
last collection of so I had 2 books of poetry and 1 nonfiction. The last collection of poetry is called "While I Wait to Be a God Again." I have another book. I'm actually going to give this one away. It's called "The Dabbler's Guide to Witchcraft," which was not the title that I chose, but that's the title that Simon and Schuster picked.
okay.
That's the book for people who consider themselves spiritual but not religious, and kind of how they're inventing their own spiritual path and all of kind of the pitfalls that they find along the way. It talks about cultural appropriation versus cultural appreciation. It talks about how to spot a fraud, how to spot when somebody's trying to do a Barnum stuff on you. It talks about the ethics of the crystal mining industry and all of that. So it's packaged as a book about witchy stuff for Halloween, and then you open it up and it's actually a book about ethics and sociology. And I'm like, haha, gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah. That's cool. Amazing.
Yeah, and then I
Amazing.
have 3 more coming out. Another collection of poetry. I have
Wow.
a nonfiction book about death that I have been investigating for the last 2 years. Kind of all about the new kinds of conversations that we're having about death, the way that we are reclaiming our right to die. And then I have my debut novel coming out, and I'm really excited about that because that is my
Ooh.
sort of foray into fun fiction, and it's
Yeah.
the only teaser that I am allowed to give until we're all of the ink is dotted, is that it's basically Kiki's Delivery Service meets the Old Gods of Appalachia. And I'm very
Wow.
excited. Yeah, I'm very excited about what things are going to happen with that. So that's I'm having a meeting with my agent on Friday about that one. So I'm very pumped.
So cool. And the name of your podcast again is?
Head on fire. It comes from the phrase to seek illumination like a man with his head on fire seeks water. It's all about talking to experts in overlooked or misunderstood fields that people have either never considered, like a job that people didn't even realize was a job. Like I've talked to a bat expert earlier this year, a PhD in bats, or a job that people think they already know everything about, like a pop singer, and kind of what the reality of those jobs are, and the work that those people do. I'm just very curious about people, so I made a podcast so I could talk to people.
Fantastic. I love it. I loved talking with you today, Don. Thank you so
Thank you
much
so
for making the
much.
time. And hopefully I'll talk to you
Stay
soon.
wildly unreasonable. Haha.
Stay wildly unreasonable out there. Yeah, I love it. Okay. Thanks, Don. Bye-bye.
Bye.